Human existence is not a simple, isolated event, but rather part of a vast and profound cycle known as the Wheel of Life. This concept permeates various spiritual and philosophical traditions around the world, offering a unique perspective on the soul's purpose in its earthly journey. According to this view, the soul goes through countless incarnations, each one being an opportunity for growth, learning, and purification. This continuous cycle, called samsara in Eastern traditions, is the stage on which the soul evolves until it reaches a state of realization and liberation. But what does this cycle truly mean? Reincarnation, the foundation of this journey, reveals that the soul returns to the physical world repeatedly, each time to experience new lessons, face unprecedented challenges, and resolve unfinished business from the past. Every life we live is like a blank page, where the universe carefully presents situations, relationships, and circumstances to facilitate our awakening. And don't be fooled. This process is not random. It follows a deep logic that respects both the universal laws of karma and the power of our free will. Throughout these existences, the soul can expand and evolve, but it can also stagnate or even regress, depending on the choices made and how it deals with the challenges that arise. This path, no matter how complex it may seem, is not linear. It follows a spiral where behavioral patterns can repeat until the soul truly understands the lesson it needs to learn. With each cycle, the soul moves closer to its divine essence or loses itself again in an even deeper learning process. And this is where the concept of the ancient vault comes into play. Various spiritual traditions around the world interpret this journey in different ways. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of samsara is central, an endless cycle that can only be transcended through spiritual enlightenment. In Hinduism, the soul's ultimate goal is to attain moksha, liberation from the cycle of reincarnations, while in Buddhism, the goal is nirvana, the state where desire and suffering are finally extinguished. On the other hand, Hermetic philosophies offer a unique perspective. According to Hermetic teachings, the soul is a divine spark that descends into the material world with the purpose of acquiring knowledge and self-awareness. True spiritual evolution occurs through inner alchemy, where the soul transmutes its dense nature to reunite with the One, ultimately achieving balance and union with the divine. And in Christian tradition, although reincarnation is not a heavily emphasized concept, Gnostic and mystical currents suggest that the soul may undergo multiple lives with the purpose of purifying itself and returning to union with God. But what truly guides the soul through this journey? The interaction between free will and karma is one of the most essential and fascinating aspects of this path. Karma, often misunderstood, should not be seen as a punishment, but as a universal law of balance and learning. Every action we take, whether good or negative, generates consequences that shape our future experiences, creating a complex and interconnected web that guides our soul from one incarnation to the next. However, free will is the key to this journey, as it gives the soul the power to choose how to act and react in each situation, allowing it to shape its own destiny for better or for worse. The purpose of the soul's journey through the wheel of life goes far beyond simple reincarnations and challenges. Its greater purpose is the expansion of consciousness and the return to its true essence. By assuming different roles in each life, sometimes as a victim, other times as a villain, at times as a master, and in others as a student, the soul gradually begins to understand the interconnection of all things. Over time, it develops virtues like compassion, wisdom, and unconditional love, qualities that are essential to reach the final stage of spiritual evolution. Eventually, the soul reaches a point where it no longer needs to reincarnate compulsively. and can choose whether to help other souls or transcend the physical plane altogether. However, the wheel of life is not just a cycle of endless suffering, as it is often interpreted. On the contrary, it is a sacred tool for spiritual growth. Each incarnation offers a new opportunity for learning and redemption, bringing the soul closer to its true divine nature. This is where the concept of karma reveals its full depth, not as a punitive mechanism, but as a universal law of cause and effect that governs every action, thought, and intention. Each of us, throughout our journey, creates the conditions for our own destiny, which will unfold at the exact moment we are ready to comprehend its lessons. Therefore, karma should not be seen as an unyielding judge, but as a tool for learning, allowing the soul to refine its consciousness and understand the impact of its choices. Each incarnation, each challenge faced, is an opportunity for the soul to evolve, purify itself, and draw closer to its divine essence. The wheel of life, with its cycles, its pains and joys, is in fact one of the greatest gifts we can receive. For at the end of our journey, when we are able to look back, we will realize that every step taken, no matter how difficult it was, brought us closer to something greater, the understanding of our true self and our eternal union with the universe. Free will, in turn, is the key that grants the soul the freedom to choose how to manifest itself in the face of the circumstances it encounters. Contrary to the deterministic view, where everything seems rigidly predestined, human existence is not a fixed line of fate. On the contrary, the soul possesses the autonomy needed to decide the paths it wishes to follow. But here lies the depth of this freedom. Every choice we make, no matter how simple or complex, carries with it its own consequences. These repercussions, often invisible, shape the reality we live in, and it is this interaction between karma and free will that creates a dynamic and continuous flow in the soul's journey. The soul, therefore, is both the author and the student of its own story, writing and rewriting the pages of its existence through the choices it makes. Karma, far from being a punitive force, is more like a mirror that reflects the lessons that still need to be learned. It manifests through situations and challenges that, rather than punishing, offer opportunities for growth and transformation. Instead of punishments, karma offers us chances for purification and evolution. When one soul causes pain or suffering to another, it will eventually experience the same impact as a natural reflection of the law of cause and effect. This profound process teaches empathy, responsibility, and above all, wisdom. Every action we take, every word we speak, contributes to the expansion of our consciousness and the gradual evolution of the soul. Still, the dynamic between karma and free will is not static. Although there are karmic debts from past lives, free will always remains present as a tool capable of modifying patterns and altering realities. How a soul chooses to react to a given challenge can either dissolve negative patterns or amplify them. Reactions driven by love, compassion, and understanding have the power to accelerate evolution, while attitudes fueled by hate, revenge, or selfishness tend to prolong difficult learning cycles. The beauty of this journey lies in the fact that by acting consciously and with intention, the soul can choose to transcend old patterns and transform its path. In various spiritual traditions, the concept of karma is understood in different ways. There is individual karma, which refers to the actions of a being and their respective consequences. There is collective karma, which involves groups, nations, or even entire civilizations sharing the same fate as a result of the collective actions of their populations. We can also find instant karma, whose consequences manifest almost immediately, and latent karma, whose reverberations may take several lifetimes to reveal themselves. However, in all these cases, the law of karma remains impartial and precise, acting according to the vibrations and choices made by the soul. By understanding the interconnection between free will and karma, we realize that these forces are not antagonistic, but complementary. Free will grants the soul the autonomy to make its choices, but karma ensures that these choices are guided by a law of balance and learning. Together, these forces form a greater system of spiritual growth, allowing each soul to find its own path toward liberation and spiritual awakening. With this understanding, the soul can act with greater awareness and purpose, seeing each experience not as a mere circumstance, but as a divine opportunity for evolution and transcendence. The physical world, in turn, is not just a passing stage, but the essential ground where the soul's journey unfolds. Material existence offers us a unique and precious experience, where the contrasts between light and shadow, pleasure and pain, love and fear become palpable and tangible. These opposites do not arise by chance. They create the perfect conditions for the soul to develop discernment, inner strength and wisdom. In the spiritual realm, everything is fluid and interconnected, but in the physical plane, where the density of matter imposes challenges, the soul is challenged to act with more consciousness in order to overcome the limitations imposed by human nature. When the soul incarnates, it plunges into the illusion of separation. Temporarily, it forgets its true essence and experiences the feeling of individuality. This disconnection is necessary, for it is through it that the opportunity arises to relearn unity and perceive the interconnection between all beings. The physical body, with its needs and limitations, adds layers to the soul's experience, demanding a constant balance between instinctive impulses and higher consciousness. And time, which in the spiritual realm is a constant fluidity, becomes a crucial factor in the soul's evolution. It enables the sequence of actions and their consequences, allowing the soul to experience the fullness of lessons in a gradual and often profound way. The duality of the physical world, with its challenging nature, is actually one of the greatest teachers of the soul. Suffering teaches compassion, scarcity, gratitude, loss, acceptance, and challenges encourage us to develop resilience. Without the material context, without the density of physical experience, these lessons would be much harder to learn. By experiencing fragility and impermanence, the soul gains a deeper understanding of the value of existence and the need to transcend the illusions of the ego. However, the density of the physical world also presents a risk. It can trap the soul in cycles of attachment and illusion. Fear, unchecked desire, and excessive identification with the ego can create barriers that hinder the expansion of consciousness. Many souls go through multiple lifetimes focused on sensory pleasures, status, and power, thus slowing down their spiritual awakening. But this too is part of the process. Each soul follows its own rhythm, and learning is, above all, an individual experience. With every step, with each life lived, the soul moves closer to its true nature, more attuned to the understanding that the purpose of existence lies not in fleeting pleasures, but in the continuous evolution of consciousness. Before a new incarnation, the soul undergoes a deep and detailed planning process, a period of reflection and analysis where it revisits past lives, revisits unfinished lessons, and defines the challenges and opportunities it will face in its next journey. This planning is not imposed by an external force, but is guided by the soul itself, with the assistance of spiritual guides and more evolved beings who collaborate to ensure that the soul has the necessary conditions for its growth. The main goal of this process is to provide the soul with opportunities to evolve on its journey, balancing karmic debts and expanding its consciousness. During this phase of separation from the material plane, the soul gains a broad and profound perspective of reality, understanding how past actions connect with future experiences. It recognizes the patterns that need to be worked on, the aspects that need transformation, and thus selects the most appropriate contexts for its growth. This process includes choosing a physical body, selecting a family, the culture with which it will identify, and even the major challenges that will arise throughout its life. Although these elements may seem random or even inevitable from a human perspective, at a spiritual level, each aspect is carefully orchestrated. The soul, with the wisdom acquired from past experiences, strategically selects the elements that will provide the best opportunities for learning, helping it reach the fulfillment and awakening it desires. Moreover, the choice of incarnation is not an isolated decision. Often the soul forms spiritual contracts with other souls, committing to play significant roles in each other's lives. These bonds can involve parents, siblings, friends, mentors, and even adversaries. Each of these connections plays a crucial role in the soul's spiritual development. Not all interactions are harmonious, as there are those who choose to challenge each other in order to accelerate mutual growth. These exchanges of energy and experiences are, in a way, agreements between souls, a pact for all parties involved to fulfill their lessons and transcend limitations. Although pre-incarnation planning is detailed, free will remains an essential element. The soul can outline a general plan for its journey, but the choices made throughout life have the power to alter the course of events. Certain challenges can be softened or intensified depending on the decisions made and the awareness gained during the experience. The life plan, therefore, is not a rigid destiny, but rather a set of possibilities that unfold as the soul makes its choices, adjusting according to its process of self-discovery. When the soul enters the physical body, it passes through the veil of forgetfulness, leaving behind the memory of its past lives and the plans made before birth. This forgetfulness is crucial for the experience to be genuine, as it allows the soul to live life authentically without the influences and conditioning of the past. Learning then occurs through direct experience, where the soul must remember its true nature without the aid of memories from previous lives. However, despite this temporary amnesia, the soul is not completely lost. Throughout its journey, signs and intuitions are constantly sent to guide it, reminding it of its greater purpose. Synchronicities, dreams, encounters, and a deep sense of familiarity with certain people or places serve as subtle reminders that the soul is following a path that on some level was already planned before its arrival into the material world. This preparation process reveals a profound truth. Life is not a random event, but a carefully designed experience for the development and evolution of the soul. Every circumstance, challenge, and even each encounter has a greater purpose. When this dynamic is understood, it becomes possible to face life's obstacles with more acceptance, responsibility, and, most importantly, awareness. Life then becomes a field of learning, where each event, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity for growth and transcendence. Before descending into the material world, the soul exists in a state of pure consciousness, where there is no separation, time, or physical limitations. In this higher plane, the soul experiences a profound sense of unity with the all, understanding its true nature and its unbreakable bond with the divine source. Unlike the earthly reality, where perception is fragmented and duality prevails, this state allows for a total and absolute understanding of existence, free from the illusions imposed by the ego. However, even immersed in this ocean of fullness, the soul feels an irresistible force that calls it to evolve. This impulse does not arise from an external lack or need, but from the very essence of the soul, which by nature yearns for growth, learning, and fulfillment. The soul's desire to expand and reach new experiences is not motivated by scarcity, but by its relentless pursuit of a state of harmony, balance, and enlightenment. This quest for more and new experiences is the driving force that leads the soul to descend into the material realm, where the learning journey unfolds. And so, the cycle continues. The soul returns to matter, enveloped in the lessons of life, with the purpose of remembering who it truly is and its connection to the divine. Just as a seed needs the earth to blossom, the soul also needs incarnation to transform its potential into lived wisdom. Pre-incarnatory consciousness is not fixed in a single perspective. It is fluid, capable of moving between different levels of perception. In this state, the soul revisits past experiences, observes the consequences of its previous actions, and understands the patterns it still needs to transform. This process of clarity allows the soul not only to see its own trajectory, but also to perceive the interconnection with other souls and with the vast web of existence that sustains them. Through this expanded vision, the soul understands that earthly life offers unique challenges that could not be experienced in the spiritual realm. Materiality, linear time, and intense emotions create learning opportunities that are impossible in their pure form in the spiritual plane. Unconditional love, for example, can be understood abstractly in the spiritual state, but it only becomes real and transformative when tested through difficulties, choices, and human interactions. However, by choosing incarnation, the soul also accepts the limitations that it entails. The veil of forgetfulness will erase direct memories of the past, allowing the soul to experience each moment in a genuine and authentic way. The spiritual knowledge the soul carries is not lost, but will be rediscovered throughout the journey, gradually and profoundly. This forgetfulness is not a punishment, but a divine tool to ensure that lessons are lived without external influence, allowing the soul to develop its own understanding and maturity. When the soul begins its first experiences in the material world, its main concern is adapting to the physical environment and ensuring its survival. At this early stage, its spiritual consciousness is still limited, and the soul strongly identifies with the body and its basic instincts. Learning, therefore, occurs in a rudimentary manner, based on direct experimentation and immediate emotional responses to life situations. The first incarnations are marked by essential challenges such as dealing with fear, hunger, pain, and the desire for belonging, without a clear understanding of spiritual laws. The soul acts primarily instinctively, seeking safety and satisfaction through the most basic and fundamental experiences of life. At this stage, higher concepts such as morality, empathy, and responsibility are not yet fully developed. The soul is exploring its individuality and testing the limits of earthly existence without fully realizing its impact on the lives of others. As life cycles unfold, the soul begins to experience more complex interpersonal relationships, realizing that its actions generate reactions and that living among others requires emotional learning. Gradually, a new consciousness begins to awaken, raising questions about existence, the meaning of life, and the purpose of the experiences lived. Another important aspect in the early incarnations is the feeling of separation from the divine origin. Accustomed to the state of unity and full connection in the higher realms, the soul now feels an emptiness and a disconnection from its divine essence. This emptiness creates an unconscious longing to return to its spiritual home, manifesting as a search for meaning, belonging, and fulfillment. However, Without the necessary maturity to understand this internal absence, many souls attempt to fill it with material possessions, power, or temporary pleasures. Only through multiple incarnations and experiences does the soul begin to realize that this deep desire cannot be satisfied by anything external, but only through inner awakening, when it reconnects with its divine essence. The soul's early lives are periods of experimentation and basic learning, where it begins to shape its identity and build the foundation for its future evolution. The suffering and challenges faced in this phase are not punishments, but rather part of the natural growth process. Over time, the soul begins to develop qualities such as empathy, compassion, and a desire to understand something beyond the immediate needs of the physical body, thus paving the way for a more conscious stage of its evolutionary journey. Through each life lived, the soul gets closer to its true essence, awakening to the deep connection with the divine source and understanding that in the end, suffering, challenges, and even joys are part of a greater process of expansion and illumination. After physical death, the soul does not disappear, nor does it immediately enter a new body. It goes through a transitional period in the subtle planes where it reflects on its past life, assimilates the lessons learned, and prepares for the next steps in its journey. This interval, known as the between-life period, can vary in duration and depth depending on the soul's level of consciousness and its evolutionary needs. The first stage of the between-life period usually involves a life review, where the soul observes its choices and actions objectively, without judgment, as the concept of guilt does not exist in the spiritual realm. The soul then sees its life impartially, recognizing the lessons drawn from each experience lived. Death marks the end of one cycle, but also the beginning of a new stage of understanding and spiritual growth. In the crossing into the spiritual world, the soul leaves behind material attachments, unfulfilled desires, and identifications with the ego. During this passage, the soul undergoes a process of purification and detachment, where its consciousness expands and it returns to its true divine nature. Over time, the soul is guided to a higher plane of existence, where it re-establishes its connection with the source and prepares for new experiences of learning and evolution. This cycle of incarnations and reincarnations continues until the soul reaches a state of complete realization, where it integrates the lessons of its journey and becomes a pure expression of wisdom and enlightenment. The ultimate goal of this journey is not infinite reincarnation, but the transcendence of the cycle of birth and death, freeing itself from the illusions of the material world and attaining a state of full consciousness. This path to liberation, as described in various spiritual traditions, is known as moksha in Hinduism, nirvana in Buddhism, or ascension in Christianity, and occurs when the soul reaches a level of maturity sufficient to detach from the bonds of ego, karma, and duality. At the beginning of its journey, the soul is strongly identified with the body, emotions, and desires. Its actions are mainly driven by instincts and the need to learn the basics of human experience. However, as the soul evolves, it begins to awaken to subtler realities, recognizing that there is something beyond the material world. This awakening happens gradually, often through suffering, the search for self-knowledge, or deep spiritual experiences that cause the soul to question its true nature. As the soul progresses on its journey, it begins to cultivate virtues that bring it closer to liberation: compassion, unconditional love, detachment, forgiveness, and wisdom. These qualities dissolve karmic patterns and break repetitive cycles, allowing the spirit to transcend the need for compulsory reincarnation. Often this journey involves significant challenges that force the soul to let go of old conditioning and raise its vibration. Liberation, however, does not mean that the soul simply ceases to exist or escapes the physical world. On the contrary, it reaches a state of full consciousness, where it understands its unity with the whole and is no longer governed by the illusions of separation and fear. At this stage, reincarnation ceases to be a karmic obligation and becomes a conscious choice. Some enlightened souls choose to continue reincarnating to assist in the evolution of humanity, while others choose to transcend to higher planes of existence. Spiritual traditions offer many paths to reach this state of liberation: meditation, altruistic service, studying the universal laws, practicing love, and seeking inner truth. Each soul follows its own path according to its level of consciousness and the lessons it still needs to learn. The path to liberation is not a distant goal, but a continuous process of self-transformation, where with each incarnation, the soul gets closer to its true essence, learning to act with wisdom, love, and compassion. Some highly evolved souls, known as enlightened masters, choose to reincarnate not out of karmic necessity, but purely in service to humanity. These beings have full awareness of their divine origin and return to the material plane to guide other souls in their awakening. Their purpose is not to accumulate more personal experiences, but to serve as beacons of light, helping humanity transcend its limitations and understand its true nature. Masters like Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, and other great avatars not only achieved individual liberation, but also dedicated their lives to transmitting universal spiritual teachings. Their messages transcend religious dogmas and emphasize values such as unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, detachment, and the unity of all creation. Despite cultural and historical differences, the essence of their teachings points to the same truth. The human soul can awaken to its divine essence and free itself from self-imposed suffering. In addition to the great avatars who have marked the history of spirituality, there are many lesser-known masters who operate discreetly, guiding small groups of disciples or influencing the world in subtle ways. These masters do not seek public recognition, as their mission is not fame, but silent service to the evolution of the human soul. They act as wise beings, spiritual leaders, healers, and mentors, spreading essential knowledge for collective transformation and helping to elevate human consciousness. In traditions such as Hermeticism and esoteric Buddhism, there is mention of the existence of ascended beings, highly developed consciousnesses who continue to assist humanity from higher planes. These beings, though invisible to the physical, inspire and guide those who are ready to awaken. The role of these masters is not just to convey theoretical teachings, but also to express through their lives and actions the example of spiritual awakening. Many of them faced enormous challenges and even persecution, but remained steadfast in their mission, carrying it out with integrity and absolute devotion. The work of these masters is an expression of unconditional service. Their willingness to serve, even in the face of adversity, demonstrates that their connection with the divine is deep and unwavering. They understand that the true purpose transcends the physical world, and that by serving others, they contribute to the collective awakening. However, the role of these masters is not to carry the burden of others' evolution. They offer the tools, instructions, love, and light necessary for each soul to find its own path. Evolution is not imposed, but is a choice made by each individual. True spiritual awakening does not happen through dependence on an external master, but through the inner transformation of the individual. The master simply points the direction, but the journey of self-transformation and enlightenment is for each one to undertake. Every human being, by applying the teachings practically in their life, becomes an agent of awakening, contributing to the evolution of humanity as a whole. Even without full enlightenment, anyone can, at their level of consciousness, spread wisdom, compassion, and love. By doing so, they become a channel of light and inspiration for others, ensuring that the work of these masters continues to live and thrive through each soul that dedicates itself to living with wisdom and awareness. Thus, the service of the enlightened masters remains alive and constant, not only in their direct actions, but in the seeds they plant in every heart willing to listen, learn, and transform their own life. They are not distant and unreachable entities, but living examples that enlightenment and evolution are accessible to all, and that through the practice of love, forgiveness, and the search for truth, anyone can become a beacon of light in the world. The journey of the soul is a continuous path of transformation, where each incarnation offers the opportunity to evolve, learn, and transcend the limitations of materiality. By understanding the nature of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, we can see that there are no coincidences, but rather a divine dance, where every experience has a purpose. The connection with masters, whether known or unknown, is just part of a greater process that calls us to awaken to our true essence, our unity with the divine. Now more than ever, it is the time to look within and question, what is my role in this evolutionary journey? How can I apply the teachings I have found along the way, becoming an agent of transformation for myself and for others around me? Remember that true awakening does not depend on external masters, but on your own ability to recognize your inner light and act with wisdom, love, and compassion. The call is before you. Open yourself to knowledge, allow yourself to learn from the challenges, and align with the greater purpose of your soul. By seeking the truth and living authentically, you too can become a beacon of light for the world. Share your discoveries, inspire others to awaken, and together, let us walk this path of spiritual evolution. Now, as we reach the end of this revealing expedition, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you for staying with us until the end. Your dedication and curiosity are the fuel that drives us to explore, demystify, and share these intriguing stories. I want to share something special with you. As a fan of the Map of Higher Self channel, you are about to embark on a unique journey of self-discovery and mental formation. I present to you the Map of Higher Self, a revolutionary ebook that will redefine your mental reality. As the creator of this content and leader of the Map of Higher Self channel, I'm sharing my deepest experiences and valuable lessons with you. Each chapter of this ebook is a reflection of my journey, filled with practical lessons I've lived and transformed into wisdom. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life. Click the link in the pinned comment and start your journey towards self-knowledge and positivity today. Imagine yourself for a moment as one of the ancient explorers who ventured into unknown territories, guided only by the flame of curiosity and the thirst for knowledge. Every piece of information, every symbol deciphered, is like a map leading us deeper into the labyrinth of the unknown. And just like those explorers, you too are now a little closer to the truth, carrying with you a new understanding of the forces that shape our world. Your presence here is not just a personal achievement, but a valuable contribution to a vibrant community of curious and knowledge-seeking individuals. Every view, every comment, every like is a step we take together toward a deeper and collective understanding. You are not just a spectator, you are a partner in this journey of discovery. So, as we close this chapter, I invite you to reflect on today's revelations and prepare for the next steps. We will continue unraveling secrets, questioning established truths, and exploring the mysteries around us. Your participation is essential, not just for the growth of this channel, but for the expansion of our horizon of knowledge. Until the next discovery. And remember, the real power lies in questioning and understanding what is beyond the visible. And before you go, don't miss these 2 videos I've selected especially for you. They're packed with deep knowledge and fascinating discoveries that you'll love. Click on one of them and continue your journey of self-discovery and the pursuit of wisdom with the amazing content our channel has to offer.